When I was a chef, the knife I used the most, hands down, was a Gyuto. Now, what's the difference between a Gyuto and a chef's knife? Nothing. It's the same. You will find this knife in every knife making country. Japan, Germany, Brazil. You know why? Because it's really good. It might depend on the size that you're comfortable holding, or the space that you have to work in, or the quantity of food that you're cooking. Gyutos come in so many different sizes. You're gonna be able to find one that's gonna fit and work for you. Let's show you how to use a Gyuto. It can cut all kinds of different things. Let's go into the techniques. This Gyuto is 240 millimeters long, from the heel to the tip. You'll find that's close to 10 inches, and you'll see a traditional chef's knife is 10 inches. It's the right size to do a lot of work. It really is helpful to have a bigger knife when you're doing a lot of cutting. But first, let's talk about how you hold it. It's really important to get a good safe grip on it, but you don't need a death grip. What I'd like to do is I butt my middle finger up against the back of the blade here, and then I pinch the blade just in front of the handle. Holding the knife like this allows the knife to float in between my thumb and my forefinger, which really allows for that smooth, rocking, slicing types of motions we're gonna wanna do with this knife. Now, the opposite hand, the one that's not holding the knife, this is the one that is in danger.
I am the danger.
Where I run the risk of cutting myself is if I'm gonna do this kind of chop. And you'll see there's lots of people that suggest you always keep the tip of the knife on the cutting board and you pick it up and push it down. This is where you're opening yourself up to being cut. What's better is if you can pick the whole knife up. You can still aim the knife down and slide it forwards. Let's talk about how we keep this one safe. What I like to do is make a bit of a claw, like I'm trying to pinch something. What I'm doing is I'm gonna touch my thumb and my pinky, and I bring my index and my ring finger back. With some practice, some good technique, a sharp knife, and taking your time without rushing, you will be fine. So let's just slice this piece of celery. We're gonna cut celery, we're gonna cut anything. You can either cut it at a 90-degree angle, and if you notice, if I'm cutting it this way, I've got my body at a 45-degree angle. The other way I can do is I can rotate everything so it's at 45 degrees in front of me. This way, when I'm cutting, my arm can move the whole way. If I do it this way, where it's 90 degrees to my body, I don't have the range of motion, so then I start doing weird stuff like twisting the knife, and I'm just not gonna use the whole blade. So I like to have it straight in front of me, things kind of coming at 45 degrees, and then I just push the knife forwards. Now, with the curvature of the knife, and depending on the size of what you're cutting, I think you need to account for that curvature so you cut all the way through stuff. What I like to do in general is I put the knife somewhere near the tip, not behind the tip. You're gonna stuff it into the food. Put the knife maybe an inch back from the tip. Put that edge right on top of the food, but point it down towards the cutting board. Slide the knife forwards, and you see, as you slide it forwards, it makes that incision, and it starts to touch the cutting board. At this point, you just carry through. Just drop your hand. So sliding your knife and using a little bit more of the blade is going to cut the food better. It's going to cut through the food completely, and it's going to let your knife stay sharp for a longer time. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we like the Japanese knife, because it does hold an edge longer. It's got harder steel, which can stay sharper for a longer time. It's also a thinner blade, so it makes it easier to go through the food. I mentioned at the beginning, I kind of have things lined up at 45 degrees, which, you know, they intersect at a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to continue to keep my knife moving at this 45-degree angle to my body and my cutting board, but I'm going to put that piece of celery perpendicular to the cutting board. I've got one of these great larchwood cutting boards, and it's kind of like having graphing paper in front of you. And then I'm going to aim my tip of my knife up towards the corner of the cutting board, and then again, I pick the knife up, put it on the food, aim it down, slide it forwards, and just try to make equal slices, equal sized cuts. You'll notice I've got the knife butting up against my knuckle. It's actually touching my hand, but I'm not worried about it, because if you look from the back, when I'm cutting, that edge is not moving anywhere towards my fingers. Often with little bits of food stuck to the side, you can actually match the thickness of what you're cutting. Then you'll get nice even cuts. If you're gonna get into dicing celery, And it's pretty easy. If you want to make a bigger dice, you can just cut it in half. But I use sort of the shape of the celery here, and I will cut one part of the curve off and another part of the curve off, and then right down the middle. And that is going to get me approximately 4 even-sized pieces that I can then go back over in a bundle and cut into little dice. So you might have seen people with a bunch of knife skills, like chefs, do this backward slicing motion. It's really great, it's really fast, and you can get nice, quick, thin slices of something. Works better, I find, if you're cutting something softer. Trying to cut something dense and heavy with this back slice, you don't seem to have as much power as if you're pushing forwards. So you'll find things like cucumbers are really great for this job. So you can see I have my fingers a little bit farther back from the actual edge of where I'm gonna slice, but my knuckle kind of sticks out a little further. So my knife's gonna butt up against that knuckle. Again, I'm not bringing my knife above my fingers, and I can just pick it up and put it down. And every time I cut, my hand moves back just a little bit. One thing to keep in mind is this little sucker out here. As you're cutting stuff, it seems to work well to push things forwards in towards where you're cutting with your knife. And so you need to make sure to avoid doing that, and best to move everything back as opposed to push things forward, because inevitably one day you'll slide your thumb out a little far and it will go underneath your knife. This is a well-known bad habit. So watch what you're doing. As you're starting to cut, take a look and say, I love this Munetoshi knife. It's very fun. It's carbon steel, it can rust, but it's really, really sharp. But I got a lot of knives here today, so I'm gonna switch it up and try something else. Something that I've been wishing and wanting to try for a while is our new Gleston series. This knife is ubiquitous. You see it all over Japan. It's rarely seen here in North America. It's very cool. It has these big dimple texture, sometimes called grantons, on the side of the blade. Idea is like a tire tread. It keeps stuff from sticking as you cut. So it's smooth on the back, but let's see what happens when we cut this cucumber. So give it a couple slices. Oh, look at that, hey? It's almost like it works. You'll find a horizontal technique will come in handy in a lot of ways. And there's a couple tricks to being able to do it nicely so you actually get it flat, not on an angle. So what I realized when trying to do this was if I had my hand over top of my cutting board, it could only go down as far as my hand, because, well, my hand is there. So what I see is people just tip the knife down. While you might cut the thing horizontally, it's also not going to be straight. So simply, I pull my hand back so it's over the floor. And now I can go super flat all the way down to the cutting board. Honestly, when I cut a cucumber, I try to get the seeds out of the middle. Same with the zucchini, lots of water, and I find that it just leaches out into your food and you have a soup salad, which is not usually what you want. So to do this horizontal cut, I'm actually just gonna put my finger right on the spine to push the knife through. You don't have to, and I'm just gonna move horizontally. My left hand is sitting right on top of the food, holding it down. I'm not afraid that it's actually gonna run away, so I'm not pushing down too hard because I don't wanna have to push the knife through that. I'm gonna just slide the knife gently. I'll do one more slice here. So again, I'm just gently holding it down, sliding the knife through. Also, since I've got the knife sliding through and I'm kind of crossing over my hands, instead of having my fingers on the side and trying to move it, I sort of pick them up and put them on top. Again, before I start moving, I kind of instinctively look down at what I'm doing and think, is my hand in the way? And if my hand's in the way, I generally try to readdress how I've set things up or how I'm holding the knife or generally what I'm choosing to do. Now, when I want to take the core out of the cucumber, sure, you could get a spoon and scrape it out. I find that ripping motion of that dull edge of the spoon, while it does get your seeds out, does rip up the surface of the cucumber that you want left behind and does start to pull more moisture out. And since I'm trying to keep the moisture in the cucumber, I don't really like it. I'll cut the little stem off here. But what I will do is I'm gonna take a look at where this sits and I'm gonna try and cut as best as I can right down the center line of that cucumber through the seeds. Now, again, with my horizontal cut, I can just put the edge of the knife. Like you can see there's a line, a white line here. And I'm gonna put the knife right underneath that white line and just slide it through. Now I've got this nice little piece of cucumber that I could cut into a few more thin strips, and then I can dice just like that celery, and this would go great in your chicken salad sandwich. It's getting to cutting something a little bit bigger, and we got a real solid, I'd call this a medium-sized cabbage. I got a 210 millimeter Gyuto, and while a 240 millimeter Gyuto would probably do this job better, I'm gonna use this lighter, thinner, smaller knife, because honestly, a 210 millimeter Gyuto is probably the main knife for most people. I got a big, hard, round vegetable, and while I could kind of just go at it, when you've got that ability for the food to roll on your cutting surface, you're introducing a problem, and that problem could break your knife or cut you, and so let's try to avoid that. One of the things I'll try and do first at the beginning of something is try and get the stem off, and your stem on things can be kind of woody, and if you've got a really hard, thin Japanese blade, let's be careful. If we run into something hard, we're not gonna twist to try and break it off. That could just very well break your knife. And we don't wanna do that, and especially think about that when you're cutting that woody stem off of something like a big squash. So I'm just gonna get on top. That cut a lot easier than I expected. But now I've got a flat surface here. And this flat surface is great because it's going to keep this thing nice and stable, so when I'm sliding a knife through, I'm not worried about it rolling around on me. In this case, because I want all of this knife, I'm actually gonna pull my hand back a little bit further on the handle. And it's just for this 1 or 2 big slices. So I don't wanna stuff the tip into the food, so I'm gonna let it hang over a little bit. But again, I'm gonna slide this tip down towards the cutting board. Pull back and do one more, and it's gonna go all the way through. When my knife started to stick, I didn't just hammer down on it. I pulled it back and I got that slicing motion going a second time. That was so that the knife would travel through gently and that I wouldn't slam the edge of my beautiful, sharp, expensive, delicate knife into a cutting board and break it. Now I'm gonna cut this another time in a quarter so I can see that core, because I kind of missed it on the first one. Now that I've got the core of the cabbage sticking out, I'm just gonna sort of sight the line of that triangle here, like this, and I'm gonna come down with the knife to cut the core out. Here's some quick tips on how to shave a cabbage. Slide the knife, use a long one. Also, pinch grip. Put the knife on top of the food. Since I'm trying to cut something nice and thin, I wanna see what I'm doing. So I'm gonna pull the food a little bit closer, and I'm gonna lean over the food just a little bit so I can see down the other side of the knife. So I just wanna be looking down at spine. Now I just slide it. Taking your time. So despite being a bigger knife, we can make it do really fine, precise jobs that you would possibly want to use a little knife for. It might not be the best, but we can certainly make it happen. So you can always take the tip of the knife and slide it into the food and twist it. But I find you could be in trouble if you push a little too hard or you slip trying to do a whole bunch of these. So instead, if I'm trying to core a tomato, I will slice it and then cut and then cut. So I'm just gonna take the knife and slide it in and then slide it in. I'm using very little force so it doesn't go through to the other side, which would be my hand. But I'm just very gently, basically touching the tomato and popping that core out. Ginger adds such great flavor to food, whether it's a big chunk or a little chunk. You get to control the size. You choose how much of a zing you want in your food, whether you want that crunch that pops and you go, wow, I just got a piece of ginger. That was so much fun. Or if you just want that kind of low hum of the gingerness. Again, this one kind of naturally comes with a little flat spot, but if it doesn't, you can just slide the knife and cut a flat spot. Now when you've got it, you can gently slide the knife through to cut these sheets of ginger. Cut that flat spot, learn how to do it with your knife. Keep your knife sharp. Now that I've got all my sheets of ginger here, you could stack them up nice and even and then go back over them. Or the other thing is, even if it's just shingled out just how it kind of fell off the knife, it'll still work. Now I'll regroup here and I'll get all my little bits of ginger together, line them up a little bit nicer. So you can easily just use these thin little julienne strips of ginger, or if you want, you can go right back over them and make a fine little brunoise. So I'm just popping my hand back in little bits as I go. And you might see as I'm going back, my little tight little bundle has started to splay out as I've cut through it. I'm just nearing the end here, but I'm gonna tuck it all back together so I get all those bits again, nice and uniform. And then eventually, once you get to the very end, it can all fall apart, but maybe you need to go back and get one little bit. But look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Parsley is such a great little versatile herb. Practically any kind of food would stand a little bit of parsley. It adds a nice, fresh, clean brightness to it, especially I find useful in something like a stew or a braised meat, something that's got a real rich fattiness. Really delicious, but can become tiring as you eat it. Every branch of parsley has 2 low guys and 1 tall guy, and so you can just sort of grab them and pull them off, and you get most of the stem and most of the leaf separated. What I'll do is take a size, about that much, you see, kind of fills my palm, and I'm just gonna push it down. You know, I'm gonna pack it in here, but I'm not gonna try and squeeze the life out of it, but it's a fairly tough little leaf, so I can put a bit of pressure on it. And that big bundle's turned into something like a compact little ball. And I'm gonna go back and just finely slice. As I have this pinched bundle, I'm just gonna pull my fingers back, and the bunched up parsley is gonna pop out from the bottom. And it's like whack-a-mole. Right? As the little bunch pops out, I get it with my knife. Now, if you do this nice and evenly and you keep the bundle nice and tight, you won't need to go back over it and do that choppy. I have this pork loin here. It's got some ribs on it. I'm gonna cut this pork loin. It could be done as a roast really nicely, but I wanna cut it into some chops. So I'm gonna cut between the ribs and then through the loin. Having this nice long blade is going to allow me to do a nice sliding motion, so I'll get even pieces, and that's really important because you want it to be cooked evenly. I want to see where the bones are. They've done a really nice job cleaning this up, so I just have the ribs here. Sometimes there's little bits of bone on the back here that kind of connect these together. You really want to be careful to not run into with your knife. You can figure out how to aim between them. And typically I find it's not so much perpendicular as just like a little bit of an angle. But if you look, you'll see where the spaces are. And you'll see that I'm moving my finger in through here because I'm trying to feel for bone in behind the meat. And sometimes it's not as easy to see. It looks pretty clean. So I'm gonna slice this. I'm gonna try and do it in one slice because I want it to be nice and even. And every time I go back and forth, I'm gonna change the angle. And especially if the knife's not really sharp, you'll see it kind of move it around. I'm gonna line it up, the whole blade here, and let's just slide it forwards. I'm gonna give it a little bit of force, but typically I'm just gonna start by sliding the knife to make the incision and then follow through. Now I've kind of run out of blade at the back here, so now I'm just gonna pop that tip down on the cutting board. I do one smooth motion back. You can use a gyuto for this job. You can also use something long like a sujihiki. Both of them will work really well. And you can do this before you cook it or after you cook it. You could roast this whole piece and you could cut chop-sized pieces too. That's really nice. If I was to run into a bone, I would stop, I would pull the knife out, I would find what I ran into. Maybe I would try to move that piece of bone by taking another little knife and cutting it out of the way, like using a boning knife. Or I would say, oh, no, I was a little off my aim there and I'm running into that bone. So I'm gonna change my angle so I miss the bone. All and any of the gyutos I've used today are in the links below. If you wanna check them out, head to our website at knifewear.com, check them out. And if you wanna see more knife skills, check out some of these other videos. This is my YouTube video about a gyuto, and I'm gonna show you how to use a gyuto. In this video, we're gonna cut stuff with a gyuto, because you're not a beaver and it's a piece of wood out of that video game thing in the pachinko place.